Assalamualaikum and greetings. My name is Puteri Nur Shafinaz binti Wan Abdul Rashid. I am from AS2015A, Faculty of Applied Sciences. Today I will present my final year project titled COVID-19 Pandemic and Lockdown, the Consequences of Mental Well-Being Among Unemployed Youth. The novel coronavirus disease, also known as COVID-19, was an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus in 2019. The novel disease was a respiratory illness with symptoms such as fever, cough, and difficulty breathing. Employees were one of the group that affected by MCO implemented by government because they need to work from home to prevent mass gathering at the workplace. The companies have to reduce number of workers as they cut off the employment contract due to COVID-19 pandemic. This impact caused panic, stress, and surely increased anxiety among population, especially for those who lost their job and the one that are unable to find a new job. Therefore, the purpose of this study was to discover and analyze the unemployment status of fresh graduates on mental health and its consequences during COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. It is also important to associate between unemployment and mental health status among unemployed fresh graduates.
The general problem of this study was the consequences of COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown on mental well-being among unemployed youth, especially fresh graduates in Malaysia. The specific problem was the increased rates of stress, anxiety, and depression on individuals, especially unemployed youth, during lockdown can lead to self-harm and suicidal behavior.
This study has been centralized on unemployed youth, especially fresh graduates who encounters difficulties in finding job and career after they graduated. Most employer in any industry has reduced the number of employed workers during pandemic crisis and lockdown to inhibit physical contact between workers and to enhance the controlling number of cases. Therefore, the purpose of the research was to assess the development of psychiatric symptoms such as depression, anxiety, and stress in population during quarantine. As the new norms such as restriction of movement and quarantine is introduced in Malaysia, it impacts the population daily activities, routine, and livelihood and encourage the psychological impact on individuals. The objective of this study were first, to determine the mental health status, depression, anxiety, and stress among unemployed fresh graduates from UiTM Jengka, and secondly, to associate between mental health and unemployment status among unemployed fresh graduates from UiTM Jengka by gender. The list of material that used in this research study were demographic profile, +21 questionnaire set, self-rating anxiety scale questionnaire set, WhatsApp application, and Telegram application. A total number of 78 unemployed youth around Malaysia, including fresh graduates from University Technology Mara UiTM Jengka, were identified as respondents and applied for their consent to participate in this research. The respondents that were recruited are both male and female in the range age of 18 to 30 years old to complete the form given. A Google form was created and distributed to the respondent. The section of demographic profiles such as gender, age, field of study, level of study, and marital status was added into the form. Besides, the medium and application to distribute the form were WhatsApp and Telegram application, and the responses were handed in within 8 weeks with the help of SPSS software statistic. For the data analysis, t-test and analysis of variance ANOVA has been used to calculate and reach the conclusion. There were 40 respondents who are 23 years old, 25 respondents who are 24 years old, 6 respondents who are 25 and 26 years old respectively, and 1 respondent who are aged 27. The total male respondents that participate in the study were 62, which is 79.5%, while male respondents were 16, which is 20.5%. From the total of 78 respondents, there were 3 respondents who are married and unemployed, which is 3.8%, while the rest of respondents were single and unemployed, which is 96.2%. There were 61 respondents who graduated in bachelor degree, which is 78.2%, 13 respondents who graduated in diploma, which is 16.7%, and 4 respondents has chosen other as their education level, which is 5.1%. The frequency for the respondents who are experiencing working were 53, which is 67.9%, and the respondents who are not experienced working were 25, which is 32.1%. The table shows the data analysis of depression and stress in DAS21 to determine the severity among unemployed youth. Based on the analysis above, the depression severity was moderate, which is the mean is 16.08, standard deviation is 11.01. Based on the analysis above, the stress severity was mild, which is the mean is 17.72 and standard deviation is 10.02.
This is the descriptive analysis between anxiety DAS21 and SAS. Based on the analysis above, the anxiety severity for DAS21 was severe, mean is 16.03, standard deviation is 10.57. For the anxiety in SAS, the anxiety severity was normal, mean is 20.37, the standard deviation is 11.16.
The t-test results show p is greater than 0.05, which is 0.110, t is 1.615, mean difference is 4.935, confidence interval is negative 1.149 to 11.02. Therefore, the hypothesis was accepted. There were no differences on mental well-being depression status by gender. The frequency was equally distributed. The histogram for the mental well-being depression was skewed to the right, which the long tail trails towards the right side. The skewness is 0.661.
For DAS21 anxiety, the t-test results show p is greater than 0.05, which is 0.272. T is 1.105, mean difference is 3.270, confidence interval is negative 2.622 to 9.162. Therefore, the hypothesis was accepted. There were no differences on mental well-being anxiety status by gender. For SAS anxiety, the t-test results show p is lower than 0.05, which is 0.041. T is 2.080, mean difference is 6.372, confidence interval is 0.271 to 12.475. Therefore, the hypothesis was rejected. There were differences on mental well-being anxiety status by gender. The frequency was equally distributed. The histogram for mental well-being anxiety for DAS21 and SAS was skewed to the right, which the long tail trails toward the right side. The DAS21 skewness is 0.551 and the SAS skewness is 1.053.
The t-test results show p is greater than 0.05, which is 0.236. T is 1.193, mean difference is 3.342, confidence interval is negative 2.236 to 8.921. Therefore, the hypothesis was accepted. There were no differences on mental well-being stress status by gender. In other words, there was no significant differences on stress level among unemployed fresh graduates by gender. The frequency was equally distributed. The histogram for mental well-being stress was skewed to the right, which the long tail trails toward the right side. The skewness is 0.567.
The improvement for this study is a survey provided can include other materials such as depression and stress scale. Besides, the study can add methodology such as involvement of clinician as a subject can directly assist with professional clinician for treatment. Furthermore, fresh graduates from other university can include as a subject to reach conclusion.